So, welcome to our very first LibreTexts Basics for Beginners. This webinar came about because we've had a lot of requests to simplify things. Some of you may already know a little bit about our project. Some of you may be completely new. We do have a lot of resources. We have over 1 million pages of open content in our repository. We also have a lot of interconnected technologies to help you use those resources in your classes, whether you want to create a new one, whether you want to adapt an existing OER, whether you want to integrate it into Canvas and all of that good stuff. So we recognize that the breadth of our project is expansive. And so today our goal is to start very much at the beginning and get everybody going with an account so that you can take advantage of all of these resources and technologies that we have. So, oh, hang on a second. Why is it not letting me? Okay, weird. Not letting me do it how I normally do it. Anyway, okay. Creating an account, step 1 to take advantage of everything that LibreTexts has to offer. Accounts are free. They are free for anyone who is affiliated with an institution. So you can be a librarian, an instructional designer, teaching faculty. We do have a verification process. We are a wiki-based project, which means that people can come in and edit and create new content. But we do verify everybody that comes in and asks for an account. So it's not a free-for-all. You don't have to worry about putting something on our platform and having some random person on the internet come in and change it. So I have the URL up here. If you want to go ahead and work along with us, it's just one.libretext.org/register. And that is going to bring you to our very simple registration form. You can either enter your email and password, or you can continue with Google or Microsoft, depending on if your campus uses one of those platforms. So, super easy. Once you have clicked on your email and password, or you have selected Microsoft or Google, it's going to take you to the confirm your email page. You will get a 6-digit confirmation code in your email. If you go ahead and enter that confirmation code here and click continue, it's going to bring you to step 3, which is just entering your name. Pretty simple. Whatever you want us to call you, you can enter it here. And as you see at the bottom here, you can always update this information later. So don't worry if your name changes or you decided you want to add a middle name or something like that. We can always change that later for you. And once you have entered your name, you are going to select whether you want to be a student or reader or an instructor or educator. I am going to assume that most people in this webinar today want to be an instructor or other educator. So go ahead and click on that bottom button there for instructor and educator. And you are going to be brought to the next page, which is step 5, which is just tell us a little bit about your role. And again, this can be changed later. Nothing that you do here is set in stone. Nothing that you do on our website is ever set in stone. So don't worry if you enter something and you made a mistake and you want to change it later, you can absolutely do that. So after you've defined your role, we're going to take you to step 6, which is entering your institution. Generally, when you start searching for your institution, you'll get some results down in the bottom of the screen here. If your institution is not listed, don't worry about that. We can add that for you. If you have multiple institutions, we can also make sure that all of your institutions are included in your account. Step 7, super easy. Select your time zone. Again, when you start typing in that box, all the time zones are going to come up. Select your time zone, hit submit. Pretty straightforward. And now your registration is complete. So you have entered all of your basic information. You're going to get to step 8, which is your registration completion. From here, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of instructor verification because, as I just mentioned, we want to verify everybody that has an account on our platform. to make sure that basically you are affiliated again with some sort of educational institution and you're here to either create or work with the content that we have in a meaningful professional way. So when you click on instructor verification, it's going to take you here to your profile. You're going to go ahead and click on start verification request. Your profile, pretty simple, really short form. The first one is your bio URL. If you are affiliated with a campus and you have your own page, your own instructor page with a little bit of information about yourself, go ahead and put that in the bio URL. We get a lot of comments from adjuncts who don't have pages. That's totally fine. You can add some info in the additional information box as well to just help us, again, verify that you are an instructor or an educator of some type. Okay. So applications are basically all of our libraries and technologies. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to get into that in a little bit. But if you don't select applications here, we're going to go ahead and give you permissions on all of our libraries. That's the default. So we have, let's say 14 or 15 discipline-specific libraries and 2 special libraries, which is this bottom box here. We have our global library and our Ukrainian library. So if you want access to those, you can select those under special libraries. But again, if you don't know specifically what you want to access, not a problem. We just give you access to everything as the default. And step 11, your account is now going to be pending. So you will get an email from us that says we are going to look over your account. Usually within 48 hours, you'll get another email saying, okay, we need a little bit more information or your account has been verified. If for some reason you don't get that email from us, if you don't hear from us, please go ahead and poke us. We get a lot of account requests daily, and we want to make sure that we don't miss anybody. So if you don't hear from us within 48 hours, please feel free to send an email to info@libretext.org, and we will get you set up. We do have a few tutorials on this page as well that you can click on. Those are all on our YouTube channel. That's just everything that we record basically goes on our YouTube channel. So if you want to get started with something, we recommend these are some videos that you can start viewing while you're waiting for your account to be verified. So now that you have an account, let's get a little bit into the LibreText sort of basics, if you will. I'm going to start with the Launchpad. The Launchpad includes everything in the LibreVerse. So we call the Greater LibreText project the Greater LibreVerse because it is expansive, as I mentioned earlier. You can always access Launchpad. You'll see this little rocket ship up here in the corner. That icon is going to be on all of our pages. So if you ever need to get back to this Launchpad that has links to everything related to LibreText, go ahead and click on this little rocket ship and it'll take you back to the Launchpad. So at the top of the page, it's going to say your LibreVerse. And so these are some of the technologies that we offer. We have our Adapt homework platform. We have recently partnered with Antecedent Writing, which is an AI-based writing platform. Justin's going to talk about that in just a little bit. We have our Commons, which is basically like our library catalog. And I'll show you that in a few minutes, but you can think of that as a library catalog of all of our content. We have our Conductor, which is our project management platform. Some of our more advanced platforms, we have our JupyterHub. We have our Nova, which is an open course builder. Again, Justin's going to go over that in a little bit. And then we also have our support platform. So if you have any questions, if you have suggestions for things that you want us to integrate onto the site, you can go to support. You can click on it from Launchpad. We have little question mark icons again on every page. If you're having problems with a text, if you see a typo, anything big or small, go ahead and submit a ticket to support and we can assign that to one of our team members and take care of it for you. So at the bottom of the Launchpad, I just had to break this up into 2 screens. You're going to see all of our libraries. As I mentioned, we have all of these discipline-specific libraries. And we also have our global which is languages from around the world, and our Ukrainian libraries, which we put together when the war in Ukraine broke out. We had all of our content translated into Ukrainian, and we put it in a special library. So you can have access to all of these resources once you have your account and your account is verified. So just a little bit about the libraries. We're not going to get too in depth because again, this is meant to be very, very basic, start at the beginning. When you click on a library, you are going to be brought to the library's homepage. So you can see at the top here, this is our chemistry library. You will see we have campus bookshelves. Those are exactly what they sound like. They are texts that are separated into campuses. We have our regular bookshelves that is just content, in this case, chemistry content from across our platform that is not specific to a particular campus. And we have learning objects. We have a separate link for all of the learning objects that are related to this discipline. You will see if you are not logged in when you get to a library, this bar at the top right here where it says sign in is going to be gray. So if you are not signed into a library, you will be able to tell because this line will be gray and it will say sign in. Once you've signed in to any of the libraries, and now with our Libre One, our SSO, when you sign into one thing, you're signed into everything. And so that's wonderful because you used to have to sign into every single library, every single platform individually. That is gone, thankfully, with our SSO. So when you're signed into chemistry, you'll be signed into social sciences, commons, conductor, everything else in our greater LibreVerse. When you've signed in, you will see that this bar turns black. You'll see your name appear in the right-hand corner and you'll see all of our editing options. And again, we're not going to get into that today because this is meant to be super, super basic and simple. But just know that if you're having some issues and you can't get to your content, you can't edit your content, it's possible that you're not logged in. So always check this bar at the top of the libraries and make sure that it's black and you can see your name right here. So I mentioned a few minutes ago about our Commons homepage. This was something I was particularly excited about. Again, coming from a librarian background, when I started, you had to search every library individually. And I begged and pleaded for a long time for something like the Commons, which is more of a general library catalog. So you can come here and you can search through the catalog. You can search for things that have been divided into collections. And we also have a homework tab for all of our open homework questions and assessments that are part of our Adapt homework platform that, again, Justin will mention in just a few minutes. But Commons, super easy. Enter your search into the search bar. It'll come up with all these different options. Again, think of it like a library catalog. When you find a book that you want to look more closely at, you can click on the book. In this case, this is an introduction to nutrition text that I found and clicked on for this demonstration. Once you've clicked on the book, you'll be able to see its table of contents. You can see an overview of the licensing, which I think is really super helpful, especially when you're talking about open educational resources. You will see over here under the thumbnail, author information, library information. Again, a little bit more about the licenses. You'll see the institution affiliation. And again, this just the source for this thumbnail if you're interested in that sort of thing. Again, you'll see down here, there's a little question mark that will take you to our support system. If you happen to be in this book and you have a question, just click on that and you can enter a ticket into our support system. A little bit closer look at the features in the Commons. There is also a full breakdown of the book underneath the licensing information. You can come over here and click on the View Conductor project. Every text in our repository now has what we call a project in our Conductor platform that can be used for project management, either if you're you have a project you're working on by yourself, or if you have a group project, it's great for group management. Again, Justin will go into that in a little more detail shortly. You can also submit an adoption report. If you happen to be using one of our texts, we would love to know. We love those kinds of statistics. So if you're here and you're already using a LibreText, thank you. And please consider submitting an adoption report if you haven't already. You can also submit a peer review for a text if you found one that you think is particularly useful. It would be wonderful for the author and for your colleagues if you would submit a peer review. That will show up on our platform for everybody to see. Down here in this blue box in the left-hand corner, if you click Read Online, that's going to take you to the text directly in its home library. So in this case, it would open this text in the medicine library where you can go ahead and read through the entire book. You can also download a PDF. None of the texts on our site are hosted in PDF form because if any of you have ever tried to edit a PDF, you'll know how miserable that can be. But if you have something that you would just like to read, you don't want to edit it, you can go ahead and download it as a PDF. And again, host that on your own computer if you so desire. You can also buy a print copy. We'll get to that in just one second. We do have a bookstore. We have a print on demand interface with lulu.com, and you can purchase print copies of all of our texts basically at cost with a little bit of overhead. And again, I'll show you that interface in just a second. You can download the pages of the text as a zip file. You can also download the print files. Those are the files that we use to send to Lulu if you want to purchase a print copy through our store. If you prefer just to have the files for yourself and print it at home, you can download those no problem and take them and print them anywhere else. You can also download your LMS file if you want to integrate your text into Canvas or Blackboard. We have that option. What's really nice about that is if you are using a LibreText with Canvas, for example, and you make an edit in your text on LibreText, that edit will automatically be featured in Canvas as well. So you don't have to edit it in two different places. So here is the interface for the bookstore. I personally think this is one of our really cool features that we have. You can select your printing options, paperback, hardcover, black and white color. It will show you down here what that will cost to print. We have a very small operating cost, which just helps us handle things on our end. And then select your shipping and checkout. So for example, this paperback black and white book shipped by mail, you can buy for $35.17, which, as we all know, a 580-page book of any kind in a college bookstore is going to cost more than $35. So that's just something to keep in mind, either for yourself or for students who really prefer to have print copies. This is a service that we offer. And that is pretty much the end of what I was going to talk about. And so now I'm going to send it over to Justin. I'm going to unshare myself. And
Thanks.
Justin, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Let me bring up. And I'll toss the questions and admit into the room to you, Jennifer.
Yep, I got it.
Great. So as Jennifer was chatting about, there's the LibreTexts Commons, which gives you access to all the different textbooks that we have, which you can see as the libraries on the bottom. What I'm going to do is give a brief overview of all of the services that we have and that we can provide to help you. One of the things that is kind of our driving goal in the LibreText group is to have faculty give us problems that they're experiencing in their courses and then coming up with solutions. So a lot of these are built from grants that we've worked with faculty at different institutions to solve real problems that you have. So we're a lot more than just a textbook interface. And as Jennifer said, you can get to the Launchpad to see all these different options, and I'm going to walk through a couple of them here. This is a webinar style thing where I'm just going to do a lot of show and tell. You can feel free to ask a few questions, but we do have office hours twice a week if you want to ask questions there. And you can send an email to us as well. And we will have a survey you can fill out at the end of this to tell us what things you'd like to learn more about after seeing the whole expanse of them. So some of the ones that you see on the Launchpad are the Adapt, which is our homework and assessment system, which we provide as low of cost as possible. Essentially, we charge just what we can, just what we need in order to maintain FERPA compliance with the servers. So there's certain data restrictions that we have to abide by, and that costs us money to maintain it. And therefore, we try to keep the cost as minimal as possible. As of right now, it's $15 a semester, regardless of how many courses your students take. So if they're taking lab and lecture and another course, it's still just $15 for the whole term, regardless of the courses, because again, we are only concerned with the FERPA database and making sure that we're maintaining compliance and security, not with providing content. We have the Commons, which Jennifer went through as our broad library catalog. We also have JupyterHub, which we are currently revamping. And that allows you to have coding embedded right in your textbook and to do data manipulations in live time interactively. We have our H5P Studio. If you're familiar with H5P type of interactive learning modules or questions, we have that whole authoring and database system. Jennifer mentioned briefly the antecedent writing. This is new to our platform. And in some ways, it comes about because of the concerns many people are having with how do you adapt your pedagogy to deal with generative AI and other sorts of things that are changing the way we think about teaching writing. From an authoring and project management standpoint, we have the Conductor, which is our platform for making sure we can work together in teams and use the tools to make things as good as possible. Nova is something that's under construction and is going to be part of faculty support for building template courses that you could easily take and put wherever you need to, meaning linking the homework and the textbook and everything that would go together in a course. So it's more of a comprehensive course builder for curriculum rather than just a textbook. And that should be coming later this year. And then we talked briefly about the support center, which is also located there. We like to say that we wear a lot of hats here and we try to keep things as accessible as possible. But we also know that there's an awful lot of things for everyone to learn about. So with that said, let's start off with the one that we get a lot of questions about, which is our Adapt homework system. It has 250,000 open content questions. So if you have a LibreTexts account as an instructor verified, you can view our questions. That part is open access to look at and review them to see what sorts of things we have there before you would even commit to using it. And the content is OER, so you can use it in your courses and things like that. We have what I would call like a source and subordinate course system. So you can have a master course where perhaps you're a coordinator for a large enrollment with many sections. You can maintain one master course that can control all of the other ones. We have learning trees, which are adaptive modules for learning as well as assessment along branched pathways. We are LTI and API accessible, so we can have interactions with your Canvas or your Blackboard to report grades and whatnot, and have single sign-on from your institution for your students. We're accessible by initial design. You'll see this come up regularly because we are started by faculty and largely grant-driven through federal funds and non-for-profit. We care a lot about making sure that whatever we build is by design accessible, so that we don't have to deal with a lot of the things that you might experience with some other for-profit systems, which can kind of skirt around that. We are accessible by design. We have problems that allow you to have audio recordings. So if you're asking students to give minor speeches, or if you teach a foreign language course, those are used a lot by our faculty. Molecule structure buildings and the antecedent will be embedded into our adapt system. So all these things can have grades reported right into one spot. You can also align your questions to existing frameworks. So if you want to have a framework for your discipline that you want to make sure you're hitting all of them, you can look at those frameworks. You can customize your questions. And we do work with web work questions, iMath AS, and H5P. So you're not constrained to work with only one of those types of questions. If you happen to have a data bank of web work, but you really want to use some questions from an iMath AS data bank, all those work together seamlessly within our Adapt homework system. Example of a learning tree would be having a question in the beginning and then a strategy there, and then that can branch off based on whether they need to go watch a video or be taught a little bit more about significant figures or go on and do another assessment question because they're ready. So you have this scaffolded approach to learning, which we built into our Adapt homework system. The next service I'll talk about is the JupyterHub. So this is great for anyone using data analysis or teaching data analysis. The statistics library uses this a lot, where you can embed code that lets students run little bits of code and modify it. So they can add in their own data sets, or they can change, for instance, the histogram breaks. So maybe they don't want to do 20 of them. Maybe they want to do 10, and you want to have them interact with that as part of the learning experience. We do think of ourselves as not just a source of concrete static text, but an interactive interface for students to learn. And then along that same line, H5P Studio is a large library of existing H5P interactive activities that you can assign to students, use them in the Adapt homework system, author your own, import them. And then if you've used H5P, there's a lot of powerful modifications that you can use there. The newest addition to our platform is the Antecedent Writing Analytics. It is a word processor online for students to type in, so you get real-time analytics of how they're writing. So the student on the left here was doing a lot of copying and pasting. Those large green circles means a lot of words were added at once in time. And you can see it starts at the top left saying they added word 1 in the beginning, and then they added the last word, which is 2000 or some, at the very end, whereas the student on the right starts off by writing text in a continuous fashion. Maybe there's a little bit of copying, pasting, some green bubbles, and then they can see that over time they go back and revise their work by correcting spelling mistakes and typos or rewriting the text. So if your goal in your course is to address generative AI, for instance, having copying and pasting with lots of editing might be the type of behavior you're looking for. Or if you want to make sure students are just typing everything from scratch, that's one other aspect. But the goal here is really to focus on the pedagogy of writing as opposed to just the final product. We mentioned that Conductor, this is a really big thing, so I'm going to barely touch on it, but it is our system that we use for authoring teams. We can assign tasks, we can facilitate centralized communication, you can remix textbooks from all over to build new ones. You can do those peer reviews that Jennifer mentioned. There are accessibility tools here for making sure that all of your images have all the alt text they need, that things are passing all the accessibility checkers. Again, we care about that from the initial start. We can also use AI to generate terms that will help our library find things, so that metadata like tagging systems can be helpfully generated by our new AI bot, or generating first drafts of alt text, for instance, or summaries of textbooks, all those sorts of summary things that are just mildly tedious work. And honestly, it can be difficult when you've been spending all your time writing really detailed to step back and write a 2-sentence summary. That's the sort of thing that we've adopted AI to help our authors do to make our materials as useful to everybody as possible. Also along the Conductor, if you're ever thinking about writing things, I just wanted to throw up a bunch of things that we have. If you have a textbook and you want to have interactive 3D plots, we have that can be embedded as interactive and editable plots right inside there, figures in your textbook. You can put in PhET simulations, for instance, if that's something that's familiar with your area. You can do protein data bank structures and add those in that are rotatable, and you can zoom in and have students investigate things, and this GeoGebra types of infrastructures. We have molecule structure builders and viewers in the homework system as well as in the textbooks. And those are all things that we have basically had faculty request that they would love to see, and then we worked our best to work with them to build those things. Jennifer mentioned, but I want to end with this one, which is our support center. You can go to that support center on the Launchpad to see any of the questions that you've asked in the past. Every single one of the pages that you'll find will have this rocket ship icon in the upper left-hand corner. That will take you back to the Launchpad so you can access all the various sources that we have, or all the different tools, or all the different libraries. And in the bottom right-hand corner of pretty much every page, you'll find this blue question mark, which will allow you to submit a question to our support team. We highly recommend this as your tool for submitting questions, because then we can go to the page that you were looking at when you were encountering some problem. And that lets us to identify things as fast as possible. I also put up here our YouTube channel. All of our webinars, including this one, all of our interactive Oktoberfests and LibreFests throughout the year, we record those and we post them basically as is. This one will be recorded and posted there, as well as on our website, which we are announcing a big revamp and change to our website next week. So be on the lookout next week for our newsletter, which if you followed along Jennifer's instructions and registered for a LibreTexts account, you'll automatically get our newsletter. We don't bombard you, but you'll get about one a month of a newsletter just to keep things up and keep you informed. Go back over here. So this is a lot. So with our website revamp and launch, we're also launching our newest service, which will appear on the Launchpad shortly, which is our LibreTexts Academy. This is what I've been working on since I've been here. This webinar is kind of the first thing in the Academy. It's because we have so many resources, we've been finding that we want to have more support and the ability to meet faculty where they are, to give them the help that they need in order to succeed in using all of our resources. So what is the LibreTexts Academy? It's similar to an awful lot of our academies or faculty development things that you've seen in the past or other places. It is, first of all, the thing that's organizing these free monthly webinars, which this is our very first one. We have always had the LibreFest in the summers. I actually helped design the first one in person back when I was a faculty member in Michigan. And since then, they've grown to be this big, large online community where people get together for 3 to 4 days. And we have long workshops day and night for faculty to get really in depth in understanding how to use our resources and to ideally, since it's during the summer, actually have the time to develop some of your stuff before the fall comes. Oktoberfest is our one-day crash course that we do in October. And it's basically a crash course with a couple hours on the most common things that we see people wanting to get into after they've started the semester and they start having questions about what's going on. The Academy will also facilitate in-person and virtual workshops. We can offer 1-day or 2-day workshops where we work with a group of your faculty if you want to organize a group on OER or writing textbooks or using textbooks or developing your own homework, that sort of thing. If you've got a team of people who want to write a textbook together, we'll also do things like cohort training, where an institution will learn how to do things together to build our OER resources. How do you make your course more robust? How do you make it more close to zero cost you can for your students? Or if you have a collaboration, if you're on a grant team who's got resources that they want to work together to build new textbook, for instance, on a new up and coming field or revamp an older field, or discipline based. If you know a bunch of people that are all teaching organic chemistry and you want to work on really building out some really nice interactive problem sets that you all want to work on and you have some funding for that, we can work with you. Cohort training is long-term, multiple months, and we also do long-term mentoring programs. So this would be more like individual or a small group that's working with us to write one of their textbooks. We have teams of people that can help you harvest things. So if you've got a bunch of Word documents that you don't know what to do with, and you want to make sure things are accessible, that that they can be used by other people in an easy way, or to move your homework systems, your old homework system over into our data bank. We'll be building out asynchronous training modules that will hopefully result in some sort of, we're waiting for feedback on you all, but if you need professional development certifications or you need like time to prove that you're doing some higher development with your professional learning, we can work with certifications and things like that. And we can also work with teams of faculty administrators, OER librarians, people who are trying to develop professional development tools for their campuses. we can help module development for those and facilitate those. Last is we do a lot of grant writing. I mentioned a lot of these projects came about from working with faculty who have good ideas or have started to build things and want to collaborate with a large library that can help make their tools useful to others within an environment that facilitates an open approach to pedagogy and to teaching. And obviously, we do a lot of dissemination. So if you happen to be in a group that's like, we built all these things through an NSF grant or through some Department of Education grant, and we would like to make these publicly available, disseminate these things for others to use. We do a lot of that with partner institutions that are looking for avenues to share the work that they're doing through some sort of funding there. Lastly, we want to mention the LibreNet Consortium that we have. So individual campuses, if you start to use LibreTexts a lot as custom courses and you start to have like a culture at your community on campus where people are using these things, then it will become in your best interest to become a LibreNet member. We have LibreNet membership that includes a lot of the things for free, or it's all inclusive for people who are in the LibreNet Consortium to get access to our Jumpstarter training, for instance, which is like this, but multiple hours and more in detail and tailored to what your campus wants. We also do more office hours specifically for you. We're more accessible to those Commons courses, and you're allowed to have more custom textbooks. So if you want to start making a bunch of custom textbooks for your group, at some point we require a LibreNet membership for your college's campus in order to host these expanding numbers of books. So I'm not going to tell you that it's expensive. It's extremely cheap. I think Jennifer can correct me, but it's definitely the cheapest thing most of our campuses go for. I think it's $1,500 a year. So it's nothing. Correct. Yeah, it's basically just something to help us to offset some of the hosting costs and to make sure that we can continue to support everybody to the fullest amount that we can. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing.